Well, I want to welcome all of those of you who are here for kind of an interesting and unique topic. I mean, it's really specific to Trade the MBI, but it's also practical from a just an understanding standpoint of how TradeStation works in conjunction with the indicators. Now, for those of you who've gone through the website and you've clicked the MBI Opus, we have this section right here. Well, first of all, you can go here, which goes through how we load up all of our indicators. But beyond that, we get into specific strategies, and I've referred to these as my MBI Opus, and plenty of you have probably seen this. What it reflects is, I'll make sure I'm not too loud with my setup right there. Okay, that's good. It goes through the various configurations that make up the complete MBI Opus. No different than each of the lines of music would have their notes. Well, within the MBI Opus and its collection of programs, we have all these different names that go through and give specific ideas. And then I've added in some others. I had to remove a couple because hackers were trying to attack them, but I'll be putting them back up again now that I've made sure that there was never anything in them, but I don't know why it was such an interesting topic for them. Whatever. What you can do with each of these, and this becomes important because when you get the basic MBI Opus, and let's just go ahead and go through what that looks like, and we have to start from the beginning, because when we look at just any particular chart, you're not going to end up with any strategies at all. And what you can do is, if you go to your format strategies, you'll see here we have the MBI Opus 2 on this one, Daily Trend Trade MBI Opus 1, which happens to be on right now. And what I've done is I've logged out of my regular setup and moved into the simulation mode that's offered through TradeStation, so that I can show you how some of these execution items get done, because if you want to do it, you have to be able to see it, and otherwise it always shows the account number when you go into these automations and things like that, and we're not interested in sharing all that detail. But anyway, this happens to be, because people ask me all the time, well, what can I trade with it? And I'm like, well, the sky's the limit as far as that goes. It was originally designed and created for the ES, so all the original settings came out with the ES. Now, there's a difference between what you see when I put up something like here, it says @ES, the @ symbol. That gives you the full historical range of the futures. The problem being is, if I give you the ESH13 and give you strategy reports off that, not going to be very good, because the reality is this contract isn't that long. It ended right back over here, and so that's not going to be as effective. Yes, you're still going to get your signals, but if we go ahead and look at a performance report from this, it should be pretty dismal. Yeah. And that's just because it's looking at trades that effectively would not even take place when you're in these, miniature zones before it really became an active contract. And that's why we utilize the @ES symbol for doing our back testing in that. Is everyone good? Did it go back? Well, let me just type something here. Don't want you guys to lose connection or anything like that. Alright, so what we're looking at here happens to be, and the easy way to do it on TradeStation is we just right click. This happens to be for my adaptive average. And that was the trend model looking at it from here. But let's go to our overall MBI Opus and take a look at it from a longer view, and just get rid of a couple of these. This is an interesting one because this is the NQ, which is the NASDAQ. And what did I do with my regular ES charts? I just put these all together and then moved them around. And that's always happens. Now, when we're looking at a strategy standpoint, this happens to be MBI Opus 2, I believe. Yeah, exactly. And the easiest way to, I'll even have another one right here. This is the Euro. And some of these I haven't even gone through to look at or adjust, because it's just not what I trade. But I've had people send me their reviews of what they've done to the various setups. Now, within each of the MBI opuses, and let's go through some of these specifics here. You can look at the performance report of this MBI Opus 2. So 72% 3 profit factor. This is going back to 11/01 of 2004. But where it gets interesting, and this is where it becomes specific, when we look at individual strategies, we want to go to our format tab. And so when we go to the format, it takes us to this little section right here. And it tells you which one you have on or off and the different strategies that are available. If we slide this over, you see this format tab, properties for all. Now that's the first place that I usually begin. Because in the format setup, you want to put in some parameters. Now, depending on whether or not this is a day trade, swing trade, you can put in how much your commission would be per contract or per trade, whichever your setup allows for. Amount of slippage. Now, I usually put 1250 just for experimental purposes. Particularly, that's only relevant on intraday. From a daily standpoint, you're not going to get slippage. It's just not going to happen. Because most of what we're doing is looking for larger ATRs and pretty big moves. But fine, we put it in there. You can put your initial capital, the number of entries that you're allowed to have in any one setup. This can be whatever you decided as far as your breakout. I usually leave it at 2. You can certainly increase profit factors and things like that dramatically by going to 3 or more. Completely up to you. Now, this is an interesting one because this becomes important when it comes to our automation. We want to adopt the real world, because you can put in some of these other things that will just give you the best tick ranges, all those things, fine. No, we want to just go ahead and do exactly what the real world, and we want a confirmation, that we've actually made a trade and it's been out before anything continues. So that's a very important feature of having that in place. Backtesting, not really relevant because I really still want to maintain all of my, this just is going to give you, like preferential, views of things. So this just gives you your basic configuration within that. Now, within each of these, and when we go to the next tab, format, we end up with a series of tabs up at the top here. Fine. And then you end up with what you've seen is, and if I'm going to increase the size of the screen just a fraction so you can see the whole thing. Within the MBI Opus, and in this particular case, this happens to be the MBI Opus 2, all of the different scenarios are all right here. And they all begin with a true or false statement whether or not you want to use them. And then you'll see here where you have an optimization capability. So you might say, well, what does that do? Well, within individual securities, I've created the general outline of what has to happen, at least algorithmically, to create a setup. Within that, you can then make adjustments. And these adjustments are very tiny. So even though you may see all these different characteristics, you may not know what they all mean. That's not really as important as the general concept behind. You really aren't going to be making enough of a change in the concept of the construct to affect it. The optimization just allows for you to take advantage of unique areas that may be congruent or incongruent within a particular type of futures. And so let's go ahead and look at a configured MBI Opus ES Daily. Let me see. We can go here, and this is another convenient. You go to Windows, and it gives you all the different windows that you have available at your disposal. And I'm just wondering if I even have an ES Daily, which I thought I had put on that had. Oh, that's what I did, was I converted it from here. If I remove that, and we go ahead and put on the MBI Opus Futures Strategy. We go ahead and take a look. See which one I've got set up here. Okay, well this is, well, let's see how many contracts. See, this becomes interesting. Let's do it a little bit normalized. So we'll just do it together. So MBI Opus, we turned it on. want to go to our format right here. Let's go just do 10 contracts. That's kind of normal for most people. And the first thing you'll see here says stop ATR. So that's generally suggesting that we're going to have a 2 times ATR, and our up target is a 1.2 times ATR. You get into details with number of exits. We'll get into a couple of these tabs a little bit later because we've had a couple of members that took advantage of the unique setups and turned daily into intraday setups by just changing the way TradeStation looks at it. So from that format, and let's go ahead and do an optimization real quick while we're here with it. Alright, so basically we're looking at this, pretty much set up a new rainbow long setup overall, even though we generally see this as a little bit of market weakness developing. What we can do for an optimization, it's pretty straightforward. You've turned it on, you've set your properties correctly, you're good with that, you're filling for your regular, so you're good from all those standpoints. The next step you want to do is you want to go to your format. And so let's look at one that we don't have configured. These are all reading true. Okay, so all these setups are true. So what we can do, let me just scroll down so I don't give you eye shock. Start at the bottom. We'll go up to blind hawk, and we just click it right here, and we're just going to say false. So that's going to turn off the blind hawk, and we'll turn off some more, and that will just go ahead and basically clear these from what was a past setup. And yes, this can take some time to go through and then play with each of the different individual setups. So if we say OK, we should get a change now in what our overall readings were. So let's go back and see what that's done to our performance report. Changed the upside performance a little bit. Nothing too dramatic. Oh, it's still reading 100 contracts. I forgot to change that one, didn't I? So 10 contracts, that reduces that one there. Let's turn off a couple of more because we know that the first ones are going to be our long trades. The second half are all deep red trend, and we know that we have not been in red trend for some time. So not a problem. Flat hawks we know are definitely long side. So this should reduce the number of trades dramatically off that initial setup. Should change our performance report dramatically. Okay, we're reducing more and more. And the reason I broke them out in the various setups was to allow you to go to the website and select any one of them, particularly like, okay, in this particular case we saw from the daily that rainbow had come up. And we can literally go back to our MBI Opus page, and we can go down and we can scroll and say, okay, yeah, I need to find a rainbow hawk. Okay, here's a rainbow hawk. Let's download this file, and this is what pops up here. It asks you to open an internet browser, and it downloads it directly from the website. That makes it easy. And this will give us an idea specifically of what this particular setup will produce. And each of them will have their own unique profit factors and win rates as well as trades. I haven't tried to do this while recording. Let's see if it works. I have a couple of others that I've already created. For instance here, this is kind of what it's going to produce. This happens to be the MBI Opus for the ES, and its general win rate. And that was back on 12/14 of this year, so we've actually moved forward in time a little bit since that one. But you can click each of these different things, including the different settings, and when you get to the settings, you just would have to go through and copy what's here for each of the different configurations to get to what we already have, which is what you're already seeing. So here's what pops up in my Excel spreadsheet for, in this particular case, it's the Rainbow Hawk. Let me slide that down so you can see it. So it says Rainbow Hawk. What it produces, typically a 2.0 profit factor, win rate, not that great, only about 70%, but that's a great profit factor. I mean, when you're getting twice as much as your losses. So what we can do is, down at the bottom, let me shrink this a little bit more so that I can lift it up and you'll be able to see it at the bottom. There are a series of tabs that it provides. And if I do this, we can scroll down. No, I have to have it big enough to be able to get to them. Anyway, I can go down at the bottom of it, and unlike the one that's produced on the internet ones, I can go to the settings, and it tells you what the contract, when the date was. So this was from 2004 to 2012. MBI Opus Strategies is the one that's on. 10 contracts, there's the ATR, and then basically you can go through here and you see all the different setups and all the different adjustments that can be made. If we widen this row, you'll see the different names pop up, quite long, so you get the little names that way. Alright, so that gives you the general concept and the construct of what we're looking at here when we do it. So if we go to our futures setup within the daily here, we can create an automation. So we can click automate this. Now, what's going to be the problem with this? You can't automate to a @ES symbol. It will not work. What this will do, though, is it'll ask you if you want to agree to it. You'll have to say yes. It'll then ask you if you want confirmation on or off. Now, if you leave this confirmation on, what's going to happen is you're going to get a pop-up that's going to ask you, do you want to make the trade? It's going to give you an alert, because you don't normally get alerts with Tradestation and its setups. And so that becomes the interesting element. If you turn this off, it will just automatically attempt to make it, which will be rejected because you can't do it @ES. It has to be done within the regular confines of the setup. So let's do an optimization real quick, and while optimization's running, I'm going to show you an easier way to even put this all together on your just regular matrix that Tradestation comes with. So from an optimization standpoint, we need to click our status, the one that's on. We're going to go over to format, and this little secondary screen is going to pop up. And let's make sure we've got enough room to cover that whole thing. Alright, so let's just go down and pick out the last one that we just turned false, which was right here. Alright, so what we're going to do is, for the ad hoc, we can go ahead and say, okay, in this case, the ATR under, and I tried to give some general concepts of what the meaning of them are when you look at it. So when it says ATR under 30, so you're looking for an ATR, an average true range, that's not over 30 points. Because at some point, it becomes ridiculous to even think about trading when, you know, you've got 45, 60 ATRs and you have to have a 2-time stop. You know, that's 120 points. No, you don't need to do that. You would play it a lot differently. So, in that case, that's simple. Now, orange, well, the ERH is the only real orange that we have. So if we wanted to optimize that, let's do this. We can say, okay, optimize it. So let's put in an orange value of 2 to 25. And we'll do it in increments of 1. Alright, that's simple. I'm not going to change a whole lot. Now, if we push OK, yeah, strategy optimization has been disabled, fine. It's going to give us this little count right down here. It's going to tell us it's going to take 24. Now we can go into advanced settings. We can do, you know, different types of methods, walk forward, exhaustive, or generic. You can do into advanced settings where it will give you all these different percentages, and you can go through and click your help, and you can create any machination you want. Alright, now if we look at the bottom here, it'll say optimize. So if we click optimize, boom, it's going to go in here, and now it's going to run through the best profit factor, and we can change this. You don't have to look for profit factor, you can look for anything else, and then we'll go through and it's going to calculate, running that through all the different variations within that setup. Now that's an easy one. You can imagine when we do all 5 of the optimizations within one strategy, and then you add that into doing 5 in a row, you get into tens of thousands of calculations that we'll need to run to create the setup. And so in this particular case, didn't do much to that overall setup. But it will make a difference if you've turned them all off, and it just takes too long to go through each of these and create those setups, because you can spend hours doing it, and we do. And this is where, I've put those down with the various breakouts on the website, so that you can just go through and then just fill in those numbers, because it's going to be different for the NQ. In this particular case, we have the Rainbow Hawk going on a daily ES. But what I find interesting is, if I wanted to create this trade, and it came up here on my ES, the problem with just turning on an automation within the TradeStation setup, it's not going to show you what the stop is or what the target is. Alright, so here's the way around that, and it becomes very straightforward to do this on your own. Now, since we're in the simulation, no problem showing you the account setup things. And what I was kind of doing was, playing with the setup right here, just to kind of make sure everything was working out. So here you have OSO orders. Now let's just go ahead and close out of this one, and we will go ahead.
Rejected.
Well, there you go. Why did it reject my order? Who cares? Let's just close it.
Order filled.
Okay. If you moved it below price, it goes, well, hello. Welcome to everyone. Alright, so here's what I recommend when we come to our situation. So now we've got a Rainbow Hawk, shows up at, in this particular case, $14.97 for the long. Well, and actually we're right there. So hey, that's perfect. So, fine, we want to go long this setup, but we want to also have our stop and our profit target. Alright, well, let's just go ahead and get into the trade first, and I'll show you what that does. Alright, so if you click a buy, what it's going to do, in this particular case, it's showing you that I've created an OSO. So, it's creating a sell order on both sides, one above and one below of the parent move. And I'll show you how to do this real quick. Now, at that bottom screen, you'll notice here that I can click this. If I click that, every time I click either the blue or the red, it will make the trade automatically. It won't give me this, window that says do something. So what am I really creating right here? Well, when you click this attachment, you can click any variation. I mean, there is just a host of them. You can do a single stop, limits, you can create multiple levels of it. And in this particular case, we have one, and we want to see the details of it, so we click the little dotted lines right here, and this other window. And so what this is showing is, okay, the primary action, whether we bought or sold, it's going to give me 12 ticks to the upside and 12 ticks to the downside. Now, I can change that. I can make it so that it only sells half of them when it reaches the up target. I can sell all of it when it reaches the up target. I can move this so instead of just 4 points, or 3 points, I can make it 5 points. 4 ticks per point, boom. So immediately, so I can do that. Now, down below, you can set this as your default. If you want to get more complex, you click the dotted line again, and then you can go into activation rules. Well, you can say if it's touched, you can click your activation. It goes into details of time. You want to set a time for it to open. So converting to an automation isn't necessarily as unique or special as literally setting in your order, particularly if it's a swing trade. I mean, we already know what we want to do with this overall order. So I'm just going to click OK on that. Now watch what will happen when we want to put in another order here. It'll say buy. And so now this one says 5, whereas this one has a -3. See, so we've moved it. And it just filled the order. Set the stop immediately. And then up above, it set a secondary order. And if we go ahead and put this one in, it'll activate this green one.
Order rejected.
Alright, fine. So now you have this long, and we can adjust that based on, alright, so if we go back here, and we know that we're going to be looking at this ES setup, which we know is looking for how much of an ATR? 1.2 times the ATR. Right there you see in yellow, it says the ATR is 11.46. Well, let's just go ahead and do the math on that. I'm going to get my calculator. 11.46 times 1.236 is what I like to do. That's 14 points. Okay, so that's my upside projection for this trade is 14 points. Alright, well, 14 points, and we're just going to say we're in at 14.97. plus our 14 points is going to give us a target of 1511. So I'm just going to drag this up. And work it all the way up there to 1511 like that. And it's going to ask me, is that what I want? I'm going to say yes. All right, so there you have 1511 is your profit target. It's done. You don't have to think about it. It's in there. What I suggest is that you would put good till cancel when you create the OSO order. Mine does that as a default on my other setup, but this will mean that it will stay if it's not going to be a day trade. Now for a stop, we want 2 times the ATR. And again, if the ATR is 11, we're looking at, 11 and a half, so we're looking at 23 points to the downside. And we would just go here, scroll down, and dip that to its 23 target. Let me go ahead and do the math on that. 1497 minus 23, 1474 is where I'm going to move it to. And you can just scroll this down, and it makes it very easy when they do this. Alright, so while I set this up manually, this effectively is the exact same MBI Opus trade that you're seeing on here. The difference is that you can see your stop is in place and your profit target is in place. You're not going to get that if you just went ahead and tried to activate it from the automation. Now, you notice that this symbol is the ESH13. It's not the @ES, because if you did it from the @ES, it would reject it because it doesn't exist. You have to actually trade the liquid market. So this is what I recommend for people who are looking to create even the day trades from the daily trend trade. And let's put up one of those. That's the NQ. I had that just a moment ago. There's SPY. Oh yeah, this will be fun. This is the intraday order setup. That'll be a cute one. Now it's interesting because we're playing with this long one, but for members of TradetheMBI, we were all looking for a short move within the setup, so it's kind of funny to be doing that. That's why it's fun to be in the automation, because it's not the actual trade that we're making. But let's get a daily trend trade up here. It might be easier if I just go to my window and get my ES. Here we go. Alright, so this says ESH13. You can convert it to @daily. Alright, well this is the daily trend trade. And if we go to strategies on this one, you'll see it right here, daily trend trade. And what this one was effectively doing is looking for a percentage of the ATR each day based on whether or not we were in green trend or red trend. Now, simple enough. This one's looking for, well, it sets up a 15-point stop loss from a daily setup, trails the movement at 50%, and the percent ATR was looking for 25% of the daily ATR for an upside. Now, I found that you can adjust that on your own, because sometimes maybe you just want to look for 3-point move, 4-point move. It's easier to go in here with your OSO order, go ahead and buy at the opening of the next option, setup, usually, at the 15 after when, they reopen the option setup. It will trade it automatically, but the problem with that is that you're not going to see it. So you could just go ahead and say, fine, at the end of the day, I'm going to buy, X right here, put it in the order, it's going to trigger and say, okay, now I'm only looking for 3 points on this. So I'm looking for, 98. And you just put that in there, boom. And then if you want your 12-point stop from there, you're going to be at, 84. You want a 15-point stop. Whatever you're comfortable with, you can make it flexible to that. And this is set, and it's good till cancel, so it's not going to change, and it's going to just keep going until you've effectively reached your target. The point behind having these setups was to give the reference so that you could look back to it and say, okay, yeah, that's the general idea of the target. In this particular case, there it was looking for 2.5. Now, it was looking for the full quarter of the ATR, but then it was going to trail half of it. So you were going to give up half if it didn't continue. in that mode. And the easy way to adjust that is, well, if you're watching and it reaches your setup, you just take your stop, grab it, and move it up. And so if it moved up to where your profit target was that you've eclipsed, you just slide it up and put your stop there, and you're done. You know, and then that way, if you want to, you can always cancel the upside order and say, okay, yeah, yes, I cancel. So now I've canceled my upside of that OSO order, but I still have the stop in place. Okay, so that gives you an ability to make those adjustments within it. Now, I've had a couple of members send me various reports from different um, setups. Let's take a look at some of them. So the ES is going to do that. Well, this is the SPY. Now this one happened to be, I originally, because I created these for the futures, had to convert them to stocks. And so for the SPY, this is the conversion. Now, the issue you have with the SPY is not going to be the same as futures, because it doesn't trade 24 hours a day, so you're stuck with gap setups where you may get a trigger and a buy and filled in after hours, overnight. It may not happen on here, so you're going to get slightly less performance, but even from that standpoint, going back to the same 2004, 77% just with this setup. Now, we'd have to look at what this setup is. So we go to Format Strategies. Okay, MBI Opus Stocks is on. Great. We look at our properties. Okay, well, it's okay, charging $12.50 per trade. Well, okay, if you're paying $6 an entry exit, yeah, I guess that would work. Automation, yes. Okay, so if you were to automate that, it would give it an adopt real world. And I will go ahead and do a real world trade in just a second for, well, as real world as this is, because we're in the simulation mode. You can also put these orders, and these will show up in your trade manager tab, which is kind of cool because you can look at those as well. Can it predict gaps for this? Well, I have a gap trading system for that will give you the probabilities for gapping the next day. That is a whole different one. We used to play those quite a bit. It was just a lot of work because I'd have to punch in all of the ending data for the day, and then you would get the projection for the next day. So definitely could do that. Now within this one, let's go ahead and look at the details of what we have set up in this strategy. So format. So we go back to here, and we can see that we've got, let me see, we'll start at the bottom and work our way back. Alright, so that ATR bust is up. Now the ATR bust is a fun one because this only works when your ATR is out of control. And so I typically arrange these setups to work when like the ATR was like 60, which is just insane. I mean, a 60 ATR, you're looking at 120 point stop. You really want to have an ES 120 point, or even for that matter, 120 point stop for the SPY. No, thank you. Not practical from any stretch of the imagination. And so what I've done is I've gone through, and each one of these you just can switch it to true and go through and do the calculations. What I typically did was I went through and had all of them as false and started from the top and worked my way to see which ones created the best overall setups. And then so in this case you can see the up target for an MBI is 1.4 and the stop is only 2.1. So that's going to create outsized gains because your profit target is so much higher from that standpoint. GAM, Iron Hawk, good, all those in there with all the different variations. And, I start usually with a broad range. So, for instance, we have the X-Hawk. So let's go ahead and look at what the performance was. We'll go back and we'll do an X-Hawk, and we'll make an adjustment on it. So if we look at our performance report for this, okay, 77.5, 2.50 profit factor, and some decent equity curve. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and add the X-Hawk in. For the fun of it, and we'll do a analysis. Let's get that out of the way. Alright, so we'll go back over here, slide down to the X-Hawk, which is marked false, and we're going to change it to true. Okay, simple enough. Alright, we just made it true. Let's go see just generally what did that do to the stock and its performance by adding that one back in, because now that one's going to jump back in at whatever readings it had. Is it going to lower, hurt? Yeah, let's see it hurt. So we dropped from 2.5 to 2.2. Didn't really affect the win rate all that much, just took some gains out. And so what we can do, and this is what you're able to do when you have them, and believe me, I've had people run enormous number of optimizations within them. Okay, let's see, we converted our X-Hawk right here. So let's say that we change the ATR. Under 2, we can make it go to 4, and we can change it by 0.1, but I think we're better off moving that up quite a bit. Let's see, 2 points, that's 20 points. So we'll go down to 1 and up to 5, and we'll do it in just, increments of 1. The up target, 1.8. Wow, that's nice. So if we do, say, let's just do 1.4. And let's do 2. And it's going to do that at 0.1. So it'll do, that's a pretty good increment. So those two right there. When the original numbers for the futures come to you, they have the baseline for most future setups. This is why I put on the website that you would want to go through and fill in those numbers that are in each of the different setups so that you can have the exact, because not everyone wants to trade some of those various setups. And I didn't want to pre-optimize because I don't consider pre-optimization necessarily the best approach, because you may optimize yourself if you go so tight to very minute specific detail that you're not going to get a broad range of signals. And so I pick a median for me that, and this is what I gave to members, that produces a mid-range and allows a little bit more finite adjustment both sides, so that you're not having to go through a ton of work to adjust it for the NASDAQ or for, well, gosh, we've even had people do it on gold, oil, the dollar, and I'll show you a couple of those. So here it says the count will be 35, and we don't need to do anything advanced to it, so we're just going to go ahead and click this bottom one down here. It says Optimize, and what we can do is it's going to show the highest profit based on the setup. So at this point, the profit 168,270. So what you'll look for is that thing climbing as it's doing the calculations. And it says there are 35 tests. Well, it's 35 tests, but going through every single parameter that's within there, and is doing multiple, both of those that we did. So when you start doing 5, 6, 7, 9, you start using them some processing powers. It's not something I recommend you do if you're actually, live or anything. It's definitely a post-event. It finished that optimization really fast. And, wow, that actually improved it from the original. So it moved it up to 77% and 2.51 profit. So we literally just improved the program right there without even, gosh, well, let's see what change it made, because it may have adjusted the profit factor. And that's the other thing, because everyone has different objectives as to how much risk they're willing to take. Some people have said to me, John, I don't have a problem taking 3 times an ATR risk, but I want a little bit more gain because I want to follow a bigger trend. Fine. That's why I left the adjustability to it. Gives you that capability. Alright, so if we go to our X-Hawk. Alright, so drop the ATR down to 1. Up target 2. Alright, now look at that. So the up target has moved to 2, and the stop is 2. So it's looking for an equal. Well, yeah, you're always going to make pretty darn good money if you have a better than 50% win rate. Yeah, you're going to make extra money if you can have an up target of 2 times your ATR and your stop is the same. You're risking equal amounts of money, and if anything over 50%, you're going to be killing it, literally. And that's why that improved. Now, you would have to break out and turn off everything else to see exactly how many trades this executed, and you can do that, and I've gone through a lot of those, and that's why I put up the most advantageous initial setups. And that's actually changed because, we're seeing here with the ES, the Rainbow Hawk. Not everyone's going to love the Rainbow Hawk setup where it came in, because the whole idea of it being a rainbow is the fact that it's high in the sky, and it usually is wanting to buy overbought positions. And like you saw, 70% win rate wasn't horrible, where most people would be terrified. Now, we also have the ability to look at the well, if we wanted to match anything, well, in the live events, what we've been showing some of these ES setups here, these are, and this is funny because I didn't even think about doing this. This is the MBI Opus Futures, okay, fine. But you're not going to get it to work intraday unless you do something that is a little bit of a tweak. Alright, so you have your format right here. And what's been done is the calculations, you click the calculations tab, and you enable the intra-bar order generation. And so I was creating setups that were working specifically for intraday, where you would have intraday setup, but he's taken, and this was one of the members did this, he converted the calculations, changed it to intra-bar order generation, and boom, entries right there, converted to one signal, once per bar. Same thing with the exits. And so that has created what you see on our typical live events. This is the 5000 ES. This was the 10,000. We looked at this one. See, now the interesting thing about this is they don't trade that often, and that's because he was looking for the best configurations for these. And I put these on the website so that anyone could have put them setups within there. Not bad, 77% win rate for a 10,000 tick. But the whole point is, some people say, oh, it doesn't trade as many times as I would like. Well, I would say, if you're trading and it's doing an effective job at it, you can have multiple time frames that will give you different entries to fill in the amount of, lag per se that you might get. But even on this 10,001, we're going to see that intrabar order generation has been turned on. And, gosh, it's pretty unlimited as to what you can do with it in those kind of setups. In fact, this one has quite a bit of an ATR 2.2. Well, that was the stop, 2.2, and a 1.2 for the up target. Those are inverted for this particular setup. But it's just a matter of going through, filling those out. Had them on the website from day one. Easy enough to go through. You just have to do the manual input, and once it's done, that's just going through each one of these setups. And a lot of these were false at a certain point. Iron Hawks were false, Star Hawk, then the X Hawk is true, Ad Hawk was true, Rainbow true, flat, shake, the Eagle Hawk, Red Hawks, Dragon Hawks, MBI Hawk false, Fire Hawk true, Spiral Hawk, Predator Hawk. No Predator Hawk, no Fall Hawks. Catfish, definitely had Catfish in there. Extreme Fractal, nope. Mouse Hawks. So all these fun little names and with the orange things. And this was just an opportunity to separate them and give some of the variations below. And by adding more variables, it left the windows wide open to make some decent adjustments to, how loose the configuration could get while still maintaining the general concept of the trigger comes through. Now, at the end of the day, still no question that if you had decided to just short the red trend here, let's go ahead and just draw a trend line and see where it takes us. Horizontal line's fine. So we turn red trend at 1502. Anywhere along here, if you wanted to follow down every time you got a buy signal and lowered to the up target, you would have ended up with a fairly decent trade as well, just doing the regular trend. Is this the adaptive? No, it's just the regular trend model. That's the whole point of utilizing the adaptive, because from our daily trend model, it would be very interesting to be whether or not we're going to be going long with the setup versus short with the setup, because that will pretty much be altered if we're able to capture the bottom. And what I'm looking for is not so much in general whether or not it captures the bottom of price per se, is how many up days within that red trend did I ended up finding. that met within that 50% or quarter of the ATR, because that will increase the number of wins that you would have from that overall setup. So that's where it becomes particularly interesting to me, looking at those general configurations. The NQ setups, that one actually, the NASDAQ trades pretty bizarre stuff. It took a while to do this one, if I'm not mistaken. That's why I put it on the overall setup here. The stop 2.15, a little bit different, 1.25 up target. So a little bit of up target more, and I think that was just because the NASDAQ moved a little bit more typically than you would have for the regular ES kind of setup. Though it's interesting because we can see that sometimes the ATRs, will shrink and then expand rapidly, and that happened to us right at the Christmas setup with the ES, where it started off with a modest ATR and then it exploded as it came down, and that was right where the stops were with this. But we were even looking for a discount because this doesn't trade red trend discount, though it should, and that's where putting in, these general automated, configurations where this is still automated in the sense that the stop is still sitting there, and the down target stop as well, and your up target profit right up there at 15.11. So those are still within the setup. You can create variations off of it too, because even if we go down to this one, you can create one long, two shorts. You can have it reverse. The sky's the limit as to the configurations. And what's nice about it, having it within these setups, you get to see it as opposed to it not being there. And for the 1 minute that it didn't even take a minute, because once you pre-do the setup, it's just a matter of clicking it and then sliding up and down on your matrix screen here where you want your stop. I mean, that's the equivalent of adjusting a trailing stop right there. Okay, fine. I just created a trailing stop to break even. So, boom, just like that. And you didn't have to worry about, is the computer going to capture it or not, blah, 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 blah. And so, that's where I like what TradeStation is able to do within those setups, because you could just set your parameters each day for it, and you can see them, and then you don't even have to think about it. And so if I wanted to pull it back off, you could do that. If conditions changed on the automation, you would not be able to make this adjustment. So conditions change, and all of a sudden I say I got a very strong sell signal. I need to get out of this, but I think I've got a little bit more room for an up profit. I can just slide that back down. And so it gives you a little bit more versatility in setting up those conditions. It doesn't change the signals that we get and those profit factors, because those still are going to generate the same way. It just gives you a new, unique capability. Now, a couple of them that were put up by some members were some unique ones, and it was like gold. Let's see if we can find him here. Here was the euro. I haven't even gone through to make that connection. Let's put up what the we'll open it with Internet Explorer. And this is what happens with these MTHs. You open it with the Internet Explorer, and it's literally going to come up as a web page eventually, using so much processor power now. And basically, for that configuration, we'd have to make quite a few changes within what the value is. You're certainly not going to have 10. It's going to have to be, an enormous multiple compared to that. And we'll have to make the ATR and that adjustable to dollar configurations. Did that show up? No, it did not. Let me try a different version of it. Which one was this? This is gold. So if we open this one up, we can see this is at GC. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we're looking at GC. This one is producing a roughly 81% win rate. So what we would do is we would go over here and we would click Settings. Pretty straightforward. Alright, and the first thing we'd look at, okay, it's looking for just 10 contracts, stop 2, target 1, okay, pretty basic. And then it's just a matter of going through and looking at the various setups and which ones are true, which ones are false. And a little bit of an eclectic, and I'm just going to slide through here so you can look at them. I don't think I've put this one up on the website before, so you'd be able to just pause through the video at an appropriate time, and you could go ahead and put this setup on. And then it's just a matter of filling in each one of these, and the hard work was already done by a member who graciously decided to let us have that. And then right here you can see it's still allowed for $250 per contract per share for commission, and didn't do any slippage on that particular setup, because on a daily, how are you really going to get slippage? It's pretty tough. And well, that's interesting. This is just the raw configuration based off of what the other one was. So just plopping it on there without making any adjustment whatsoever, other than what was previously on that Euro one, still produces 69%, 1.3 profit factor on there. That's funny. But you would definitely want to be specific to each of them. Gosh, she even did some on the FAS. I haven't even looked at that one. Let's see what the FAS does. So that would be MBI Opus stocks. Let's collapse that, look at it. 84% win rate on the FAS. Now, that was FAZ, wasn't it? As opposed to FAS. So that's the short of financials. And producing that, and the settings readily available by just clicking the settings tab and going through. Now, I'm going to even be making additional adjustments, because as I add the MBI, well, the Power Momentum 2 and its unique characteristics, that's going to be even more powerful as far as finding true bottom setups. So that's going to be extraordinarily effective as well. So looking forward to doing that one. And, you know, I just get this library of all these configurations, and I'm going to put more of those on the website so that you'll be able to just utilize them. Let's see if it opens now. It's still not opening that one for some reason. Let's try this one. This is Euro versus the US dollar, and win rate at 81%. So trading currency there within futures. And it doesn't have to be futures, because we've even put up, well, here was one for the CL.
Order filled.
So that's the CL. Let's look at the settings on that. So who would have thought crude oil could be effectively traded with that? I mean, that's a pretty decent profit report for crude oil, but then again, we trade USO pretty effectively. But that's pretty impressive. 4.81 profit factor, 80% win rate. Number of trades is always good to look at. 113 trades. You know, depending on how active you want to be and how patient you are waiting for just the right setups to produce just the profit setups that you want, you know, sometimes you have to wait for them to come to you. And it's not always going to be, you know, every 2 minutes that you're going to get a trade. Now, you can certainly trade that often if you want, but, you know, that gets a little bit out of control doing that. Now, I had converted the individual, and I was going to set this one up to give to people as well. Let me see if I got it. Yeah, this was daily trend trade, but I converted it to this one right here, the NTM 60-minute. It happens to be on a 78-minute chart, but it's a version of the trend trade, looking for red and green trend trading stocks individually. And as soon as I have that one completed for everyone, I will get that one out to let's see how this one's doing. I haven't even looked at it. Okay, oh, that was the other one. Okay, so here, 78% win rate, 1 points. Not so great on the short side. Actually, did a lot better on the long side for it. But again, I'm going to be offering the ones too that will also give us specific portions of an ATR under certain configurations. And then again, it becomes easy because we just would go to our little setup here, and you would say, okay, fine. In that particular case, say I need to leave, I need a 6 point, profit target. If I was doing, NASDAQ, whatever. All right, at 4 points, let's do 28. So that's a 7 point move, and I need a stop, that maybe is a little bit bigger. Go up to 20. You can just type in the number if you want as opposed to just clicking it up. You can change whether it's a good to cancel. It'll give you all the different variations. So that just leaves it there. If you want to add to your rules, this is where you can get specific. You can even create a trailing stop after it's done this. So you can say if the activation, if it's touched at this price, create this point trailing stop or this percentage trailing stop. So all the things that you can think of doing within a strategy you can do and have in these setups, and they would be in front of you as opposed to not seeing them on there. FSLR, the trend one currently that everyone has is for futures. Now, I've not tried to convert it to stocks specifically because with the futures it says contracts. It would interpret contracts to mean the same potentially, but even if you put it on the actual stock to get the signal, it would still work, and then you could literally trade the trade that way. So, yeah, theoretically that would work as well. Because the whole point is just getting the signal, whether or not you take it then to your matrix and say, okay, fine, I just created that overall setup. If I came here and I wanted to click buy, and it would do it, you can see that that's going to set a 5 point offset to the upside. Boom. And then it would just do that. And then actually, where's that target? It's right there. We can slide that down to wherever we wanted. And it asks you to confirm. You don't have to have the confirmation on. See, you can eliminate all these things too. If I just wanted to, and this because it's already done that on my live setup, but this being the simulation, I haven't done that. I don't use this that often. And literally, when you're doing it live, you don't get this yes or no. It just literally will move up and down. And I mean, if I slide this up to right underneath price, boom, it would just do it, and you don't have to think about it. You're all set. Let's change this intraday to FSLR and see what it does. Why not? And I find that particularly with individual
Order filled.
Oh, order filled. Where did we get filled? Oh, it came down. See, it collapsed really fast on that. Uh-oh, I moved my FSLR. Where'd it go? Oh, it's still working. Let it work. SPY. There's FSLR. Alright, so it's not working in the same aspect. Let's see what we've got going on with it. So we would have to go to our strategy. We got this one, format. Well, we can turn on intrabar order generation. Okay, make it intraday. And that's because that NTM60 was set up for Apple specifically, not for FSLR. And it would just be a matter of going through. So, okay, so it's calculating it, it's doing its little thing. Dun, 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 dun. And a lot of it too is going to depend on the ATR, because what you'd have to do on that adjustment, the FSLR ATR, oh my gosh, we would have to find out what that is, because maybe I have it too, because it's set for Apple. It was set for a much bigger range. I don't think we're going to have that same range on FSLR. It should still work. It's just we have to adjust to FSLR's ATR, which is not the same as Apple's. Not by a long shot. In fact, we'll look at what that configuration was based on for Apple, because I imagine it was several points, whereas for here it would not be. See, and it does take a little while for those calculations to work, particularly when we're also running HD camera setup within this, and quite a few charts. Just have to wait for it. Let's look at some other configurations while we do that, because we had, oh, here was JPM. Let's look at JPM. If we open up JPMs, and this is a daily performance report utilizing, let's see if it's any good. 2.44, 87% win rate, but let's see what program. Is this MBI Opus Stocks? Okay, so MBI Opus Stocks JPM, going through the optimization configurations. So all of those are true except for MBI Hawks are not. Fall Hawk is not. Catfish is not on. Orange Dot is not on. Rolling Hawk is not on. And see, with 24 different setups and having them broken out, because I could leave it as one complete unit, but having the individual setups just makes it that much more customizable. Oh, it's really working FSLR, isn't it? Jeez. GC with the 1000 tick. Wow. So this is gold on a 1000 tick. Nice profit factor. Good win rate. Not too bad trades. How long does this go? Well, this is just for the year, from 10 to December of 2012, so 2 months for that time period. Not bad trading 1000 tick gold on that. Jeez. Excellent. And this tells us what it was. That was the gold continuous contract, MBI Opus Future Strategy, and just going through. Nothing unusual as far as ATR setups and that, so pretty straightforward. Can't believe that's still calculating. Can you imagine? Oh my god, that's taking forever. Can't do anything with the charts until it's done. Well, let's might as well just go through a bunch of the other ones. Let's see, we had the Euro 30-minute chart. Ah, there it is. Whoa. And then it disappeared. It was there, now it's gone. Okay, FSLR. So let's go see what the ATR had to be for this setup. Okay, 60-minute. Let's see what the properties were originally for this setup. Alright, points of slippage, $5 per trade, $2.50 commission per trade. Only one entry. That's interesting. And that's normal for setup adopting real world. Okay, so those are all fine. No objections there. It's the same one. I need format this time. Okay, we looked at intrabar order generation. And oh, okay, so this is looking for 50% trail stop, ATR, shakeout value, interesting setup with that. I hadn't looked at this one in a little while. And that's the problem, 1,000 contracts, is that converting to the actual shares is the question. Let's see what it does performance-wise anyway. Yeah, interesting. So FSLR, only 77% win rate. That's not great. This is what, from 2008. Okay, well that's interesting. That's a lot of trades. I mean, look at that, 2,200 trades. Whew. That's a lot of trades. So that's just like a couple of days swing trade. 31.10. Where was the stop? 29.75. Dollar plus. Nothing See, that's interesting because it has an entry. Okay, that was a short. So the red ones typically should be short, but sometimes what will happen with these when I convert a futures to a stock, it sometimes, let's shrink this a little bit, make sure you look for the blue, and you can adjust these too in your format. If you format your window, um, you can adjust those, but you can also do it in your strategies. If you go to the format strategies, let's click the particular one. You can go to your entries. You can change the color for longs, shorts, whatever your preference is. So if you want to see it at a different color for your buy and a sell, or for the short, say you wanted the shorts all to be, magenta, for whatever reason, you can do that, and it will alter your color. Of course, didn't do it there, did it? No. Do I have just the one strategy hooked up? Yeah. Oh, and so then you see there, this one also had orange dots, and I'll do a lot of tests on these going through there, and that's why I let people have those orange dot experimental ones to play with, just to get some unique ideas. In fact, I think I had a 50,000 bar on here that has one of those. Let me see. Those were the 5,000. One we just looked at. I don't even think this has anything on it. This has got orange dots. Well, we can put an orange dot on real quick just to see. I have no configuration. Straight out of the box, this is what this orange dot would be doing so far for the day. Oh yeah, see, that's not good. That would need to be worked on. But, and this is what you see a lot of too when you look at strategies of like MACD and that. You can still get a decent win rate, but if your profit target is not commensurate with what you're risking and your win rate, at 58%, you've got to have, gosh, you need at least a 1.5 ATR up target to a 2-point stop in order to be profitable. And that's where a lot of like the crossover moving average ones, you're never going to get there trading those on a long one. Orange dot experimental ones though were really designed for higher time frame, closer to 50,000 ticks as opposed to 5,000. And that would be more like your 60-minute, 78-minute charts when you get into that bigger tick range. I suppose that's why it was interesting to see someone convert the MBI Opus into a short tick maneuver. That was kind of surprising overall to be able to just turn on the intrabar order generation. But again, I think more effectively you're still going to have your dot setups come in, and the difficulty with some of the strategy setups is the math that goes behind these, because like you've seen on the up-down power in that, where I have dark lines that you don't see, well, those calculations are still taking place. So when I go to a strategy, it's not as simple as saying, oh yeah, the orange dot is here, go ahead and buy it and sell, because it sees more than one calculation, because it sees price in two different locations, which I know sounds bizarre, but that's generally how some of the string math works. It's just really incorporates two things, and what I can do on our like Power Mo is I can plot one, not plot the other, so that visually you're seeing just the one that makes logical sense as opposed to the one that's more abstract. So from that performance report, and then with this series of different performance reports, that's just a matter of going through and picking what you're most comfortable trading with and what parameters fit within your comfort zone. Because I've had some people say, well, if I put a 4-point ATR stop on there, I can get 90, something percent win rates on almost everything. Well, yeah, sure. Who couldn't? Is that practical? You're really going to sit there and take 4 times ATR? And there are people that do, and they have a lot of antacids, and that's great. This is why we look for some really oversold setups, and where the Power Mo is going to be very effective in changing trend to a more adaptive approach. In fact, I should have the adaptive trend model right over here. Let me see if I've got it handy. Yes, range bar. Should be another 5,000 window. That's new trend model, new trend model. Don't need that one. 1 second, I'm just because it'd be interesting to see if the new trend model, the adaptive one, not on that one. Well, let's look at our format analysis techniques. That's the easiest way. Not seeing it there. Maybe I'm hiding it behind one of these. Ah, here it is. Alright, so that's the adaptive version. And we changed that to what, 50,000 tick on the orange dot. I don't even know what that one does to it. Yeah, see, that's where it's really designed, moves it up there and turns to profitable just by going up 2 percentage points, but it changes it completely. And that's literally just a default one, I believe, coming out of that orange dot one. That's not even optimized. But where they'll be interesting is when we bring in trend model adaptation. Let me put this back to the same 5,000 as the other one, so we can see if there's an alteration between the adaptive trend model. Because if I can capture closer to real pivots that are taking place at just a fractionally smaller location, it just means that many more positive trades for utilizing green trend ETRs. And to me, it's going to be less important about where the general price moves, as long as there are a significant number of days that have higher ATRs over time. And that's what I'm going to be looking for in general from those concepts. I just hate that it's so slow when the HD camera comes on. It drives me nuts. Though I'm looking at our CLF and WLT trades, looking very nice overall. It's interesting because I was wondering whether or not we could get a pop back up on here, and this rollover from the daily ES, very interesting to a topping setup. Haven't seen much change in the orange ERH, but yeah, definitely that's not the strongest look. So even though green on futures overall, that's starting to look very heavy, you're going to need to see a pretty good turnaround for that to be okay. So not good from that setup. Okay, so did we get any change between these? I gotta shrink it down to the right size. Let's just go ahead and get rid of that orange dot. It's distracting. Alright, so no change today. I know we had some interesting impact on it the other day. That's the 24th. Yeah, so there's where the alteration in the trend model began to have an effect. Right about the 24th there, it caught the bottom side of this entire uptrend move. And it's only going to catch it under very specific areas, like right here was the same match, turned to green early. See if both of them caught. This was a significant one right here too. And boom, catches that little bit lower portion of overall dip. And to me, I think it makes sense because it corresponds visually for you to your orange dots, because it's always tough when you get these orange and catfish dots and your trend is still deep red and you're thinking, okay, well, this is the end of a cliff, it's falling off, and we're never gonna see the light of day again. Let me get rid of that MBI. There we go, so you can see better. Yeah, and that one adapted right there. captured it at the bottom. This was just the other day. And those are very effective trades from a just capturing the green move on a 5,000 tick and then following. You can either do with an ABM or just set your specific goal and then just keep trailing it up as desired. So now right here we've gotten a bit overbought, which is the reason why it's not going to give a better trend change there. In fact, it turned red and stayed pretty much red during that whole decline right here. And then it recently flipped around. That's going to bring us to right where we're at now. So pretty consistent to the same. That's interesting. This one turned green just one tick earlier. And has captured that upside move. So caught it at the bottoms here with the dot alert. But overall, that's generally, though, from our future standpoint, I will be putting together this whole list of these various configurations that you can use to upload for all the different futures ones, because it gives you an opportunity to just punch in those numbers, and then utilizing the powerful aspects of the matrix that Tradestation offers. You can literally put in those above and below stops. You can even vary them as to how much you want to scale out of a particular spot. So if I had wanted to put the stop here at 4 points for 50%, so that half of my position sold out, and then the next one, so you can even create, multiple exits by just clicking down through here. So if I wanted to have, in this particular case, 2 exits, it'll give you a double setup and your offset limits. And so you can just literally create whatever configuration works for you as far as scaling out, doing it in multiple levels, quarter at a time, half at a time. I love doing that because that, to me, is a very effective way to trade. I don't think I have any other stops in there, so I can just go ahead and close this one out. I'll just wait for it to tick up one and then move it right to here.
Order filled.
Just like that. And it says order filled for you. So hopefully that gives you a little idea of some of the different things that can be done. So while we have some of our unique optimization things, there's just the simple practicality of utilizing Tradestation's neat matrix to effectively do it, because again, when you do automations, and I recommend that if you have them, you go ahead and try it on a simulation like this, because you'll see that it'll go active and it'll be fine, but you will not see the stop or the profit target until after it's hit. So if you visually want to be able to capture that, having your OSO order and doing it that way from a manual standpoint to set it up, and particularly if this is a swing trade, I mean, it's going to be days potentially that you're going to be in it. To spend a couple of minutes to do that is not that big a deal, and well worthwhile, because we're still going to be looking at our same upside targets and that based off of the signal, and that's why we use the @ symbol for the ES to get our general construct of profit factors over time, how the trades do, and we're able to utilize it from there. So hopefully that was instructive for you, and we'll be putting together a little slideshow of those different configurations where it comes to looking at intrabar order generation, and that was a unique one. I hadn't even thought about that one in doing it, because I had been creating ones that would work for an intraday. It's a little more difficult to do from an intraday standpoint, but by just turning on that intrabar order, certainly opened up a whole new realm. And then when I add the power momentum 2 to all those MBI opus, oh my, that's just going to be explosive. I've begun doing that. It's just a laborious task of trying to add all that math back into the existing one, but very exciting, because I think it's going to be phenomenal as far as the power it gives us at all different time levels to be able to trade. So looking forward to that. Never stop working on it, because the market is dynamic and they're always making adjustments, and I've seen some recently in the last month. I've been making some adjustments to accommodate what I've been seeing. They've been making a little bit of alterations on it's a speed issue that they're making adjustments with. They're finding that a little bit more of like rapid flushes are becoming more effective at triggering additional stop setups. I think where they're trying to experiment with it now, because I think what they're looking at is down the road when there's like a liquidity event, they want to see what the competition is going to be doing. So it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if they were doing it as an experiment or if it's just something that's going to be a regular feature. But seeing the math on it was kind of unique, and I was like, okay, can see that working in a mini flash crash. I mean, literally, that's what they were generally creating there right before the end of the year, and it was interesting the way it really impacted the liquidity, and people just boom, the bids just disappeared, and you can't do that manually. So it's a computer doing it, and but that's what's constantly happening. They're constantly one robot's testing another robot, and what we're doing is left in between. And you've got to adjust within there. And some people say, "Oh, well, that's happening in nanoseconds." Yeah, there's that element, but there's also a broader element that is doing regular swing trading, like I'm doing with the dot setups and that, where they're accumulating and seeking a particular move. So all different levels, all different time frames, and all different commodities. I mean, you're talking about, I just showed you a ton of the ones on the futures. I don't even get into half of those markets because there's just so much complexity with all of it. And yet, the NBI Opus should not have any profit factor on any of those if it was solely designed and just an arbitrary idea. It's not. These concepts are valid, and that's why they work across stocks as well. Though I find the liquidity in the futures market much better than you will find in stocks, because stocks can easily be manipulated. Well, this is what a lot of people have talked about. This is what I always say: the less effective your indicators are, the further out in time you need to go. Okay, so you'll hear people say, "Okay, yeah, now I've moved to more swing trade, broader time frame, and bigger stops in that." Well, I don't think that helps you as much as having something that's a little bit more effective. There's nothing. We have no issue trading 8, 10 points. In fact, all our members are in a trade right now, and we have a legitimate stop that's not out of control, and we have a variable profit target at this particular point, waiting for market confirmation, and fine with that. It's not being out of control in the sense of having to get bigger or wider as far as your stops and things. It's just about waiting for the right setups. And I think oftentimes people want to trade every day, all the time, and they're not willing to wait for reliable and specific setups. And that's been the tough one, where you've had so many people wanting to call for the market short, because a lot of the oscillators that they use, they try and get real fast, and they just get oversold. I mean, overbought or oversold, and then they stay there. And then they're looking at these tiny, minute fluctuations in those, and they're moving averages, so they're lagging. And this is why they get caught, and they, as professionals, average in. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the approach that they take, and this is what you see, and you're hearing a lot of. It's like, okay, well, I'll keep adding into TZA or those kind of things, and that's fine. Because a typical professional will know that he's not going to capture the absolute top in that. What we're fortunate is we tend to get a little bit closer to that edge. I mean, there's always going to be, bounces up and down. That's fine. You just have to stay outside of that range. And so you've got to look at the ATR, because that's what the computers are actually basing things on. What is our normal volatility? When does that volatility change? Now, the one thing that my NBI Opus is not doing, that these programs are doing, is they adjust their ATR, and I see it even intraday. So they're able to respond even faster to those general fluctuations in an ATR. I don't think we need to get into that detail, because if I had everyone changing the ATRs constantly, it would just be too confusing. I mean, it's already confusing enough for a lot of people as it is, just having these dots sitting right here, for the up target. And the other problem I get is they'll hit the up target and they want to stay with it. And then they wonder, like, it reverses. We did that with NVIDIA and several of the others. So those are the dynamics that you have to deal with, and you also have to deal with the fact that you're going to have losses. There are going to be some setups that aren't going to work, that are going to surprise these guys like Apple. And I warned everyone when Apple hit that roadblock and didn't stay above that 500, that all those guys that had been lining up there that we could see with the fractal buy setups, when they lost, they were going to flip and go the other direction when they got down to their stops. And so from that 470 down to 430 was obvious, because that was them making up for the fact that they were wrong, for the 25 plus dollars the other direction. That's just the way it works. And unfortunately, because you burn them, we can see from our shakeout indicator when we put up Apple on a daily basis that those funds in that have not gotten back in a strong way, um, for whatever reason. They're waiting for, this, that, or the other. I don't know why. We can just see that they're doing it. In fact, if I put up a Apple, I think I have one. We can go to a daily on it real quick just to kind of give an idea. I got a shakeout on here. That's what it looked like if you were doing this on a daily basis. That's designed for intraday. But see, right here at the bottom of the screen, you can see we're at minus 24. Okay, anything below that minus 12, I mean, this gets back to the same, that we were talking about. And you'll notice every time they come back up, the yellow here just fails. But we're still not below the blue. So are we, everyone says they're oversold. Well, no, not really. You can get like this, where you had the potential for a nice pop. We got the pop, but it got overbought like instantaneously. I mean, literally that day right here, already overbought and flipping over. So, yeah, not good. And just like we just looked at the ES setup, I mean, while people will be bragging that it was green or whatever, it's not looking good from a daily standpoint. Um, that's why we put up those individual charts for you to take a look at these setups. And oh gosh, where is that ES? Is it one of these? That was interesting. The Russell puts in a buy signal from an Iron Hawk overall at what is that, 890 whatever, 892. So we would have to calculate the ATR. Okay, is 9. Let me do the math real fast while we're here. 9 times. That's 11 points it's looking for the ATR up. Let me make sure that that's what the strategy is calling for. We want to go to futures. We go to our format, inputs, up ATR, yeah, 1.2. So it's looking for the futures while everything else is kind of ugly. At 11 points, it's about ready to fill this up target for that Iron Hawk. So go figure. My initial, like when you look at that, let me put it back up here, that matrix. Did I close my matrix accidentally? May have. Let me see, I got one right here. I'll just copy that one, bring it over here, paste it. I haven't played with these configurations on the so if we click the OSO, this one is set at well, this is only at, oh, this is a penny, so that was a CLF. We don't want that one. We want a futures chart. There we go. Copy window. Paste window. Alright, so from this OSO, when I'm usually setting up one, I usually have, mine's typically at 16 ticks to start with, because I know that you're not going to get a 4-point move instantaneously upon your entry. And the only reason I do that is just so that when I go ahead and create the entry, so for instance, if I wanted to short this setup right now, alright, it's going to give me a 4-point above, 4-point below. Alright, I'm going to wait for one tick up and it'll say order filled.
Order filled.
Alright, so now that's 4 points right there. Well, okay, typically, before I've started whatever, I'm going to have looked at my, let's see if I've got a daily ES. There we go. Alright, so I'm looking at my daily ES, and I'm saying, okay, I've got an ATR of 11.7. I'm looking for, let's say, 5 points to the downside now. Well, I can then say, okay, from here, 95, I want it to be at 90 and a quarter for 5 points. And I can just move it right to there. And I'm willing to say that I'm willing to risk because I'm looking for 5 points on the downside. I'm looking at 12 points on the upside. So, I can just move it up there. I'll just say 10 points for the heck of it. So that would be at 05 and a quarter. If I'm at 95 and a quarter. So that trade is automated now. I don't have to do another thing. It's good till cancel, and you're done. So in that particular aspect, that keeps it pretty straightforward. Now, if you were looking at like your 5,000 tick that we were just looking at, or even a 10,000 tick, again, I still use the same ATR setup in that. So where this dot is, and that's where it gives the value. In this case, it's 1488.21. Well, you'd have to go to the 25, or you'd have to go to 1488 even, and you can pick which one depending on what it is. Now, at that particular point, you already hit your target, which was to the upside. So from the entry at 1493.75, it hit the up target at 1496. 58, which you could round up to the 75 or just take it at the 50, but it was still worth, a good 3+ points, right there. Now, if you saw this series buy right here and you can see that you've tripped over to a sell, do you think you might want to like either move your stop to a break even and or just move up? Oh, you want a daily consensus on FSLR? Oh, we weren't even looking at it from a daily standpoint. We were just going to see if we would be able to trade a 78-minute configuration on it. We're going to move it to a daily to see what the setup would be. You would think that that would go pretty quick. But I definitely play with this matrix if you get the opportunity, because it's so powerful in what you're able to do. Even if you were live trading it and you wanted to just close it out, you can literally just click the close or reverse button and it'll flip you over. And sometimes on Fed FOMC days, that's necessary to be able to just reverse on a dime and flip over. Those things are working pretty hard to do that FSLR. Frozen. Just have to wait for it. Too much RAM. I know I even had a question the other day about what kind of computer. And it's like no matter what you get, you got to find something that just has a staggering amount of RAM, unless you're going to get a remote server, which is good. I will have this on YouTube, just like the others, and be able to go through it. And then we'll also have some more details on the individual setups to make it easy. But they're all going to start changing once again as I put in the Power Mode 2 string fractals into all those configurations. Just going to make them stronger. It's going to even be in the dots as well. So it's going to be pretty exciting stuff when that's all said and done. I've begun some early components of it, and it's looking really good. So I think it's very exciting to have that working out. Oh my, that's really tying it up. I should have disconnected the strategy. Actually, I can abort it real quick if it would let me. It's not even letting me abort. That's because when I run this HD camera for the actual live stream, it gives you various levels. Okay, well, Michael, he's got charts. He can look at it. We had a nice buy setup originally, but it just kept going day after day, and it wouldn't click to the upside. And then we started to get this stupid yellow moved above. I will say I've burned a couple of computers. You laugh at that, but I have because some of the simulations in that it's just so intensive. I even run an air conditioner on them to try and cool it, but I back it up regularly. And then for the remote server, which that's nice because you can through GoDaddy, whatever you want to choose, they have the remote servers. You can pick the different operating system, and then you can literally run your Tradestation off of a remote server. So when you're like viewing it, you're literally viewing it from a web based page, or you can then even look at it. You can't make changes that way. You have to make it inside, doing it like I would for the website. Um, but that's an alternative way to get like right up at the market. Did CLF ever hit our upside target? What did we have? 3760 or 70 range? I don't have that on this because it's a little different because I've switched to um, the simulation, which normally I'm not in. Ah, there we go. Well, that's why we weren't getting a overall setup there. Voila, FSLR daily. Oh my. See, I should have turned off the automation there. That's interesting. Look at that from a long side. That's funny. Yeah, 60-minute. Oh, it's got multiple strategies connected to it. Okay, that turned it off. Actually, shakeout's still fairly decent. Actually, you're making a higher shakeout today, if I'm reading that correctly. Let me expand it. So it looks like the Russell's going to fill it. Now, you'll notice, though, that even on this higher day, notice how the bears are shorting into this move up. That's worth noting. I think if we had Power Mode 2 on here, it'd be interesting to see what the Russell is showing. I know that's throwing a lot of people off, but there are plenty of times where you want to short into an up move, and when you start to see that kind of configuration, this should close this out probably at the end of the day based off that move. I was looking for 14 points, so that would be 906. So 6 points shy of hitting that target. Is it going to get there? We'll have to see. Alright, here's FSLR. Came down so close to where those stop setups are, but wow. And it was so nice too because you had the orange above, and then it was like right over here. It was first started right there, and then boom again. Right here, the yellow got and took over, and it stayed in control. But you haven't had a big dump out. I mean, there's still at negative 12. That any improvement there could be positive. You were at negative 13 the other day. Today is at negative 12, coming off a GAM. I think that I think it's going to depend on the market here. If the market starts to roll over, I think it rolls over with it, and the market's not looking that healthy. And this is one of the issues where, like for CLF and some of these others, we may have to just take our gains with them, particularly as we see the market getting heavier. And it's unfortunate. It's just what it is. You may get what'll happen with those, and this is where people play the defensive game. Oh, it'll go down less than the rest of the market. Well, you don't want to play that game. If the market's going to be going, it's hard being long and trying to fight the market. There's no reason to try and fight it that way. If it's short signal there, and you got to buy, you just wait until the market gives you the same kind of configuration. And this is the whole point of where we looked. I mean, like American Express looked good, but it's like one of those issues where, okay, yeah, but now I know I got the market going weak. I have weakness on the FAS that I'm looking at overall from a financial standpoint. It had the nice little bump in the morning. I would have taken that because I just don't like the overall long configuration at this particular point. And whether or not the market continues down, that doesn't, irrespective of whether or not there's enough weakness to where am I going to get enough oomph and enough excitement from other people to really drive those particular items. And particularly now that you've also seen that we've got negative growth. Yes, the Fed is going to continue to throw stuff at everything, but so what? Hasn't worked to this point. Don't expect it's going to. And you're not going to get anything resolved until real estate changes, and that's pretty much going to be the driver of the economy and how things go. For now, you get all these companies with cash, and they're not doing anything with it, so they're hoarding it. It was funny because I remember hearing a lot of people, oh, M&A, and that's just going to explode here at the end of last year, and it didn't, because there's just too much uncertainty. And we all know what people do when there's uncertainty. Nothing. They freeze. And business is no different. If you have doubts, you're just going to wait. Because, like, everyone screams, why isn't Apple spending some of their 160 billion in cash? Well, there are issues out there that they've not decided one way or another how they're going to work out. And while everyone can be bullish, like, if you're sitting on 160 billion dollars not doing anything with it, there's really not a whole lot of growth with regard to that, and the competitive nature of the market's changed. I know I got a lot of grief on Stock Twits if you even mention the word short or tepid with Apple because it's such a wonderful this and that. Fine, but if the economy is going to suffer in the coming quarters, you really think people are going to be putting out for a large expenditure? While they may still dominate market share, if the whole market share is shrunk, you're going to have a downward revision. So your forward-looking expectations are different. And this is what people often forget when they're doing fundamental analysis, is that the multiple that you're paying for going forward changes because perceptions change. You play devil's advocate. It's all right. I'm just going with what the signal is in front of us. I could care less. Yeah, but it doesn't make any difference. That's the whole point. I mean, we look at the chart, and the chart tells us what we need to know. And when I look at that shakeout on Apple, and I don't see it above -12, it tells me that we still don't have institutional guys wanting to jump in heavy to this setup, even after this decline, after this move. Everyone's screaming for 475 plus. Fine, we ended up with the dot, but look at this, -24. It has improved. The last time we had a decent improvement from the shakeout was right over here. We got overbought on that tiny little move back up to 550 where we had our target, and that was it. Well, sure, people are going to be buying all different kinds of things. That's the whole point of looking at it. Unfortunately, PCLN, we didn't like the daily chart on that one either, because the red dot short, and then it needed to retrace the positive extreme, which it did, because those are the real support and resistance lines. And I remember I had some guy tell me that my lines for PCLN and Google were all wrong. And it's like, well, wrong because you like to draw points here and there. That's irrelevant. When I put my extreme histogram back on here, this is where we know that people, particularly the guys with money, not just general Joe Schmoes who are drawing lines, but the guys who actually, put the bucks out, this is where they come to. So we had this positive extreme. We expected a retrace to that positive extreme, and lo and behold, we get a retrace to that positive extreme. Does that mean I'm negative on PCLN? No. It meant that we expected PCLN to retrace. And I went through a ton of these on the down. Actually, I asked Andrew to go ahead and put up some charts if they could, and Michael, you should always do it as well, to just show some of those retrace points, because that's where price is going to gravitate to. And it's just the way it works. Now, what happens, though, is sometimes they get back to these retraces, and then everything starts to change. You break down on your shakeout completely, and then it's like, no, and then it just falls apart. That's what happened over here. Came back, retraced that one perfectly fine, jumped up, almost finished to the lows. It retraced this one, and yes, it still had its overbought, but then the shakeout just turned over, and it turned over well before price broke down. The shakeout, boom, it's already lower right here. Alright, so at that particular point, 644, people are going to be saying to me, oh no, PCLN is going to go up. And then all of a sudden we get over here and they're like, oh, look, it's up $7. Yeah, I made $9 on, I'm out. After the next day gaps down, they tell you that they're out. This is why we post the charts beforehand and mark the targets and leave it at that. And this is why I've not commented on the ES, because it's a trade that I gave to our members, and I'm not going to give it out because it belongs to them. So that's where we're at. Half hour still left in this market. I don't have my regular screens open because I am in this simulation mode, so I would have to close out and get those uploaded onto my regular setup, and then I can probably go through some of the current intraday setups, but more likely I'm just going to call it a day. So hopefully you guys have seen some interesting aspects of what the strategies can do, and better yet, how you can implement those without having to worry about configuring yourself manually. Because like this, I just went ahead and did that real quick short. We can just go ahead and slide this up, and whether you click that on or off, perfectly up to you, but it just makes it easy as far as how TradeStation works and the flexibility of it, because you don't have to be a rocket scientist to make those configurations. That's just a matter of clicking this in here. You see my signal, you put it in there, and you're done. Z-Man, always good seeing you. Michael, everyone. And by all means, if you have additional questions, feel free to email me. You can always put them up on Twitter. We'll be doing more events like these so that you can get an idea of the practical elements of it. It's a little bit difficult to do this kind of one because I had to change out of my regular trading to do this. But overall, it just gives you an idea of, why. I mean, in fact, someone just on TradeStation put on there the top brokers, and I think TradeStation was up 4.5 stars on it or whatever. It was one of the top 3 brokerages because you've got this kind of flexibility. And I mean, that's phenomenal. If you wanted to scale out and you just put the multiple orders, can you imagine how convenient that is? And do that all the time. You want to have 3 exits, 4 exits, you can have as many as you want. If I'm doing, and this sometimes, well, we don't talk about it much because I'm not big into going into it, but when I'm doing 100 contract setup in that, and I'll scale out of, in increments of 10 contracts all the time. And so you want to have multiple exits for that scale, and you can just go ahead and click as many as you want, the different ones, and then you just put the configurations in here, and you can create whatever quantity you want to take out given the concept. And so that becomes a powerful way to be able to trade, to take profits as you go within specific increments, and really be a strong trader that way. So we can see the market lower. I know no one expected that, and shocking, just horrifying, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, you guys all take care. We will talk again soon, and I will be on Stock Twist in just a little bit as soon as I get this squared away, close it all out, and get my regular screens back up. Alright, so take care.